Hello, I'm Dr. Rosie Kuhn, and this video series is called I Want to Be a Better Coach. And the intention of this series is to support and empower you as coaches and or anyone who's in relationship with people and want to be a more effective person in relation to other people. This is a place where you can ask questions or listen to answers that I have or thoughts that I have or principles that I have that could help you be more effective or a better coach. And so I have been coaching for over 20 years, 24 years. Before that, I was a therapist, and I worked in recovery and addictions and also as a spiritual guide. So I kind of integrate all of that into the work that I do as what I call a transformational coach and or spiritual coach. So let's just dive into some of the thoughts and questions that I have or that came up over a course of a lifetime as a coach. And if you have questions or challenges that you're dealing with as a coach, or maybe you're a parent, or maybe you're a sponsor in a 12-step program, maybe you are an esthetician and you are listening to people, maybe you're a minister or a priest. Maybe you are just interested and curious and have challenges, thoughts that you want to ask. Well, in the description below, you'll see a form that says, hey, ask your question here, or challenges. So just fill in that form and I'll be happy to hear what you have to say, what your questions and challenges are, and hopefully answer them for you or give an answer anyway. And part of this for me is that I may say things, and this is my experience, and this is what I've learned over years or whatever, but this doesn't mean it's the truth for you. So in hearing what I have to say, this gives you an opportunity to go, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me. Here's what works for me. And it allows you to be empowered to say, no, that doesn't work for me. This is what works. And that's a really good thing. If you have comments below, please add a comment, let me know what's going on for you or challenges or questions that you have. But also, if what I say here is of value, please give me a thumbs up, because that's a nice way for me to know that what I'm saying is actually beneficial to you. All right, let me get started. So one of the things is the questions that come up quite often is, how do I start a session? How do I start a coaching session? And let's start with the first session. We won't go into a lot of detail about this, but a lot of times the first session is exploration and finding out what your client really wants. What is it you're wanting? It's like the 4 questions I ask. What is it you want? What's in the way? What needs to shift? And what will you practice? So in that conversation, generally speaking, what happens is there's homework or practice areas that are obvious. Like, here's what you'll practice until the next time I see you. Here's the homework. Here's what I want you to notice. And your client's going to come up with what they're willing to practice or want to practice. Like, here's what I'm going to do in the week that's coming up, or the 2 weeks. And so there's a kind of an agreement that this is what the client's going to do. So the next session, whether that's 1 week or 2 weeks or whenever that is, you as a coach, greet the client. Hey, how's it going? How's the weather? Whatever you say. And then for me, I start out with, what did you notice this week? What shifted for you this week? So in starting the session, the second session or the third or the 15th or the whatever, 117th, what did you notice? It engages the client in noticing how they may have shifted or what changed over the time. So they may say, I noticed I didn't do any of my practice areas. I noticed that I did this, but I didn't do that. Or I noticed that I got really upset or sad or mad because I got really resistant. But they're going to notice, especially if you ask them, what did you notice? Or what shifted, because anything that they provide in terms of that information is giving you clear information about what they're doing, what they're not doing, what's getting in the way of what they say they want. So I'm going to put a pause on that for a second. So when I started coaching a long time ago, and I expected that my clients would be accountable for their practice areas. They'd come in and they would have done their practice areas. Quite often people would say, well, I didn't do my practice areas, or I didn't do them this week, or I had too much to do, or my family got here and or I fell down, I had an accident, or I got sick. All these things that came up that they didn't do their practice areas. And a number of times people would say, well, I'm not going to stay in coaching because I'm not doing my practice areas. And so obviously I'm not ready. And I just didn't know how to deal with that. So that's part of why this question comes up for me, is like, what do we do when people don't follow through with their coaching, with their practice areas that they said they agree to, in a sense, the accountability. And so this is an exploration, and it gets into a little bit of what we're going to talk about next. But when we're asking our questions, like, what is it, not what did you get done and how was that for you, but what did you notice? People will say, here's what I noticed. I didn't do my practice areas because this came up or that came up. In a sense, a higher priority came up. Now, not wrong, bad. We're just noticing, no judgment, no attachment as coaches. We're just saying, hey, what did you notice? What did you notice? Were there any shifts? And so that gives people an opportunity to cultivate awareness in themselves, and to, in a sense, become more aware of who is doing what and how are they choosing to choose what they choose. And doing this, we're empowering our clients to listen and see and get who they are and how they're doing things. And in the process of seeing, getting, and hearing, they're being able to go, oh, I see, I'm choosing to resist, or I'm choosing to avoid, or I'm choosing to act here, but not there. And that gives us a lot of information of the dynamics and the process of how they be themselves and how they're choosing. And are they choosing from fear and resistance, or are they choosing from inspiration and essence of who they are, and integrity, in a sense, I agreed I would do this, and so I'm going to follow through with that. So we get a lot of information by asking those questions. What did you notice? And it also a lot of times becomes a shorthand for or keeps the conversation more in the direction of what we're here to do as coaches, as opposed to saying, hey, how was your week? And people go, oh, my Aunt Martha visited and the baby got sick and had to go to emergency, and the weather and the mosquitoes or the hurricanes and the whatever. It limits all that information to maybe later if we have time. But it's like, what did you notice this week? Let's get right to the point. What did you notice? What shifted? So I would suggest, if you're interested, to see what happens when you ask those kinds of questions. A lot of times, I mean, in a sense, we're training our clients quite often to be more clear and concise about what they're bringing to the session. That means they're going to get more bang for their buck. They're going to get more value. They're going to become more engaged in their own evolution, as opposed to waiting for you as the coach to be the one that directs them to go and do stuff. They're going to become more empowered. They're going to become more engaged again in this conversation. They become more fascinated and curious with, wow, look what showed up. I didn't see that before. So this is engaging them in that process. And that's a good thing, because this is about empowering them to empower themselves to make the shifts and change. And when they can see this as shifts and change, or they can see where they're resisting, or they can see their perceptions, then they can be at choice about that. So for example, a client of mine who wants to run a marathon and but hasn't, and she's 57, something like that. And she says, I really want to run a marathon, but people my age, mostly they don't do that. They get hurt. And it's like, okay, wait. So you want to run a marathon? Let's put a period there. And let's be clear about what those thoughts are that says, yeah, it's probably impossible. It'll never happen because of my age, or this is what happens to other people. So when I can help them distinguish that conversation with themselves, we can see, like, she can say, I want to run a marathon. And here's some challenges because my thinking says I can't do it. My thinking says it's impossible. So over the weeks, it's not about getting her to exercise. Maybe it is. Maybe she goes out and starts to train. Maybe she gets herself a marathon coach. But she starts to look at how she's seeing herself in the world. She starts to notice, oh, here's where I put myself down. Here's where I think limiting thoughts. Here's where I'm thinking negative. Here's where I'm blaming or shaming myself for being who I am. So she starts to notice that. And as she's able to notice that, she's going, wow, I don't have to think those thoughts. I can think thoughts because there are people, there's marathons for people who are seniors, and there's super marathons for seniors. There's all kinds of things that says it's very possible. And what's happening inside her? What is she noticing that's going to empower her to move towards her desire to run a marathon, or to limit her willingness to even try? So if I ask the right questions, and for me, the right question is, for me, it's the right question to say, hey, what did you notice this week? And what shifted, if anything? I say if anything, because that keeps people from having to feel like they're on the spot. And sometimes people go, I didn't notice anything, nothing different. It's like, okay. But as we talk and have a conversation, it's obvious that they did notice things and that things did shift. So me as my coach, listening, I'm not going, oh man, they didn't do anything. I'm listening for where they did do things, even though they may not be conscious of it. So this is a really fun place to play, I think, and to cultivate that capacity to ask those questions directly. And it keeps the conversation focused, and it empowers the client to be accountable for what they're noticing. And in that, a lot of times my clients will come in ready and prepared to say, here's what I noticed. Here's what shifted for me. Or they might go, I knew you were going to ask that question, but I didn't get ready for it. It's like, okay, so what did you notice? What did you shift? I don't have any stuff. I don't make them feel guilty or shame. And they may come up and go, oh, I feel so guilty because it's like, okay, what's that about for you? What did, I noticed I feel really guilty about this. Excellent. And we can start to have a conversation about that. So anyway, take that and see what happens for you as the coach. And the important thing is what you're committed to in this. In a sense, I don't want to waste time. I love asking my questions. I live on an island in Washington, and so I love to share what's outside here and the beauty of that, or the weather, or my cat, or something like that, but very brief. And I always make time. My sessions are not an hour long. They're an hour and 15 to make time for chit chat. And I love to hear where people are at, where they live, and what's happening in their world outside. Like, what's it like living in the UK, in Devon or Scarborough? It's like really fun to have those conversations. So I make time for that. But then it's like, okay, what did you notice? What happened this week for you? And what happened in terms of what shifted? So there's no room for that story that can take up a lot of time, but not necessarily be directive or generative in terms of what the coaching is about. All right, next question. Life coach or life coach? Now, this was a really big aha for me when someone asked me this question. Am I a life coach or am I life coach? And when I heard that, it was like, hell yes. Because what we're doing as life coaches is we're supporting and empowering people to be themselves in their life, in their process, in the process of the life that they're in. And when I was able to hear that, it became clear that my job is not to be a life coach and here's the results they want: more money, relationship, better health. It's not about the results. It's about who you be, how they be here in this moment, in the midst of their life. And my job as a life coach is to sit with them in the moment that they're in a sense, the freeze frame of what they're seeing their life to be, and helping them see, here's who you are at this crossroad, perhaps, or at this stage, or at this moment in your life. Here's where you are. And it's like a map, of the world, or Google or whatever. And it's like that little pin that says you are here. And so as a life coach, I'm saying, here's where you are. And I'm holding that space with them and saying, here's where you are. what's it like being you here? What are you noticing? What's it like? What's the experience? What's the direct experience of you in this life that's yours and yours alone? And to me, that quality becomes much more precious and the conversation becomes much more personal and unique and precious because it's this human life that we're supporting and empowering. And it allows our clients to feel held and precious too. It allows them to say, hey, someone is paying attention to where I am on my path and how I'm choosing what I'm choosing. And that it's like a companioning that feels so good to know somebody is on the path with me. My coach, I don't speak with her a lot, but when I'm not speaking with her directly through Zoom or phone, I have her right here and I have a sense of her presence in my life and she's holding me in a way that she recognizes and honors my life. And that's what we're doing for our clients is we're holding them in this preciousness of their life. So just think about how you're seeing yourself as a coach. And are you a life coach or are you a life coach? And both are important, but it's like, what are we attending to? We're attending to our craft or our art or mastery as a coach. But the focus for me is on the life. Because when we do that, then we can be more open to how is a person in their circumstances, where they are, how they're here and they want to get there, wherever there is, but who are they here and how are we going to support and empower them to support and empower themselves to get to where they want to go? And for me, my way of doing that is to say, wow, you're awesome. You got yourself here and what's next for you in a sense. So that's really important, that piece of life coach, where we're really honoring the person's individual life and where they are in this moment on the journey, and life coach, which honors how I be in my practice as supporting and empowering and a thinking partner and companion. So take that one on. If you have any comments, again, write them down. Are you a life coach or a life coach? And what's that like for you? Just maybe you have a thought. Okay. Let's see. My third question is from people who have asked, is it okay to become friends with my clients? Now, that's a great question because a lot of times, a relationship, a coaching relationship can be very different than, let's say, a therapeutic relationship, a psychotherapy relationship. And very, very often we have these wonderful, engaging, connecting conversations with our clients, and we go, "Wow, I really like this person, and I want to have time with them outside our session." And this happens a lot for people. And it's not about the sexual thing. It's not about ethics. It's not about any of that. It's just, here's this amazing conversation I'm having with this person, and I really like them, and I'd like to have more time and connection with them. Is that valuable? Is that beneficial? And that's a great question. So I'm going to put that on hold for a second because there's also people who start out practicing coaching with friends, or they coach their friends. And that's a really great place to start. And both of them have a point where it gets to be a little challenging, where you have to choose the relationship, the friendship, or over the coaching. Like one of them, you and this individual have to choose, because your client, and this has happened quite often. I mean, I love my clients and I tell them that all the time. I love you so much. I'm so happy to have this time with you. And no, we're not going to go have coffee together, or no, we're not going to go hang out or go on vacation together, because my relationship with them is based on a clarity of my position, not hierarchical, but my clarity when I come from coach. And that's really important. And sometimes when people become friends, that coaching gets bled, like that it bleeds. And it also bleeds into, let's say you're going to go have dinner together, and then you find yourself coaching this person over dinner. It's like, wait, I don't want to coach. I just want to hang out. But there's sometimes this place where it's hard to hold the boundaries of being a coach versus a friend. And so it's a really good question about when am I a friend and when am I a coach? And where's the difference for me? And can I hold that boundary? A lot of times we want to coach our children, or we want to coach our spouses, our partners. We want to coach other people. They haven't asked for coaching. We just look for opportunities to meddle, if you will, and coach when we're not being asked. There's not a request for coaching. So it can be a challenge. Sometimes when we're coaching friends, there's a point where our friends will there's a moment in a sense where there's accountability, where your friend is not acting in alignment with their truth or their accountability or their agreements, and you go, wait a second, I thought you were the kind of person that was integrity, and you're not following through with coaching. And so now my stuff may get upset. I might get frustrated or disappointed with my friend who I've been coaching. I may lose respect for my person because I'm finding out things through the coaching conversation that I didn't know before. So there's this challenge that things could show up when you're coaching friends where it's like, wow, I didn't know that about them. And now I have this sense of a lack of respect, or this thought came up, or this judgment, or this perception. How do I feel about that? So there's a dilemma there for you. And so just keep that in mind, because that will most likely show up. And the same again, if you've got a client and you really like them and you want to hang out with them, there'll be a point where it may create a dilemma for you, because again, it's like, am I always coaching, and when do I get to be me? When do I get to be me? And this was something I learned a long time ago when I was training to be a therapist. My supervisor brought up this idea of pseudo intimacy. He said, "Do you know what that is?" And I went, "No, I don't know what that is." And pseudo intimacy is where, as a therapist or coach, in a sense, we are invulnerable. We are not exposing ourselves. We're not being um, vulnerable in terms of what's the word? Bringing up issues that to the individual we're talking to. We're not sharing parts of ourselves that are scary, or um, we may not want people to know. We're asking questions and asking people to do that with us as coaches or therapists, but we're not having to do that. So there's a relationship. It's a pseudo intimacy. And certainly I share a lot about myself, but the relationship is still based on me being the professional and holding the space and being a thinking partner. I'm working, even though I'm having this engaging, loving, wonderful relationship in this conversation. So there's a place where in a true friendship, there's a connection, there's a back and forthness. I get to just be me. I don't have to hold a sense of listening that's going to help this person, empower this person. I get just to be me. I can lay back and just be me. So there's a challenge when perhaps have a client and we like them enough that we want to maybe have a friendship, but it's like, is it a real friendship, or are you doing something where you don't get to be you? And that could be a pattern. I know for me, it's a pattern of mine to be useful all the time. That was an old pattern, and I'm breaking that habit. And part of that is being clear that when I'm with my clients as clients, I love them dearly, and that's the professional relationship. And if I see them in town, or if I see them wherever and there's a connection, I hug them and love them and all that kind of stuff. But I still maintain that level of a professional relationship. I'll say it that way. And if at some point that relationship ends, that coaching relationship ends, and I choose to have a different relationship with those people, with clients, then then I'll do that. But I'm at choice all along the way. And it's a choice to say, if I'm friends with this person, how is that for me? What's that like? Do I get to just hang out and just be me? Or am I going to have to be coaching or attentive to how I'm being as a person? And that's not authentic. So just a great question, I think, for all of us. And again, I've been coaching for 24, 25 years, and I'm still, in those dilemmas sometimes because I love my clients. I love them. And would they be my friends if I lived in the neighborhood with them? I don't know. I don't know, because that's not what it is. All right, so those are the 3 questions for today. If you, again, have any comments, please put them in below. If you've ever experienced that dilemma of clients being friends or friends becoming clients, all of those kinds of things, let me know. Just put them down below. And that really helps other people who are listening to these videos in terms of saying, wow, other people have this challenge too. And this is how that looks for different people. So just check it out. It'll come up again. I have other stories about it, but right now I think that's enough for now. All right. Thanks again. Again, if you have challenges, leave them in the comment below, or there's a form and just fill out that form and I'm happy to answer your question as it comes. All right. Hey, if you're interested in September of 2024, I have an advanced intensive in transformational coaching. It's a 2-day program. And it's in September. And if you're interested, the link is below, and check it out and see what you think. And there's other offerings as well. If you're interested in individual coaching or training or group supervision, it's all right there. And check out my website. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. All right. Bye for now.